What is up, everybody? We are here. I have a couple. I'm running over cords right now with my chair. We got a couple guests here today. I'm sure you guys know who these guys are. You guys want to introduce yourselves? First time on the podcast, the Bible Stream podcast.
Yeah.
Pastor Dylan here from Richfield, so Richfield campus pastor.
Yep, and I'm the worship pastor at Richfield. Been there for 4 years, and excited to be here on the podcast.
Yeah, it's fun. And I pulled you guys in for a very interesting conversation because Judges is pretty graphic, pretty. There's a lot of stuff we go through. I mean, Israel. Yeah, a lot of people hear the Bible, and I think they think it's a cookbook with instructions of what to do. Judges, if you take that approach, you are going to end up in prison because it is very confusing. And I think for people that struggle with using the Bible as a prescription for everything, you will be horribly misled if you read Judges like that, because this is an account of really the wickedness, the depravity of Israel as they have forgotten their God and they did what was right in their own eyes. So it'll be an interesting discussion today. First, before we begin, what were your guys' immediate thoughts of the reading? And then we'll look over to the comments section and see what our guests have to say.
Well, Judges, I mean, it really, like you said, it's just a really dark and heavy book, but it really shows this cycle that they put themselves in chapter after chapter and through story of story where they fall into sin, and then sin brings the oppression, and then they finally get to this place of repentance and deliverance, and then we see a season of peace. And we really just see that theme over and over again, and it's really just yes, you can take it for face value that Judges is a heavy and dark chapter, but it also paints this real picture of the grace of God and how good that he is and how faithful he is to, no matter how far down the road we may go, even as a nation or as a people, that God is always willing to pull us back. So it's a really beautiful picture of what we see throughout the whole book of Judges.
That's good.
I thought it was kind of neat when we got the invite to come on. The Richfield campus we were in the beginning of jumping into Judges and the leadership of Israel and the kings and all that, and then we hit pause on that to do some marriage stuff. But so Richfield, if you're out there listening and watching, like, hey,
shout out Richfield,
right? We're finally getting into Judges in more depth, which is great. Yeah. And so I thought that was kind of fun. And one of the things that we landed on or ended with before we jumped into marriage ministry was just the sense of like what could be lost in just one generation. You know, we'll probably get to that. It's like, wow, like how real and how just real it is that you can lose faith within just one generation if you're not raising up the next generation. Yeah. So it's like, yep, that's good.
It's so good because it's funny because you see, well, not funny, it's interesting. I notice you see with previous generations, God is, as he is performing what he's about to do through signs and wonders, just like what he did, for example, with Egypt, as he delivers his people, not only is he dealing with the current situation and delivering the people that are in current bondage, but he's like set up memorials. He's always focused on setting up memorials and traditions for the benefit of the next generation. He goes, you guys are good now. You're seeing my glory, but I want you to set up these traditions and memorials so that when your kids ask, hey, Dad, why are we slaughtering the lamb? Well, let me tell you about the day where God had set us free by the Passover. That always he was focused on. You see that with Joshua, how they were setting up stones as a memorial to the Lord and what he did. Why? For the next generation. And if you guys got the email, if you're not a part of the email, let me know and I will sign you up for that. It's really helpful giving you an overview of what we're reading. But if you did read the email that I sent out, I was talking about as they moved into the promised land, there is this big issue that they're going to begin to struggle with. I call it spiritual amnesia. Yeah. Where they forget where Moses, before they go into the promised land in Deuteronomy, you remember the song of Moses? Yeah. I mean, you should know this, Pastor Tracy. Moses was.
Let me sing it for you.
Yeah, let me sing it. Yeah, he was spitting bars, and he's like, listen, you guys are going to remember this song, and it's going to be a witness against you because I know that you're a stiff-necked people. And as soon as you go into the land of promise and your wealth increases, the land is fertile, and now you're not seeking from the hand of God to be fed by manna, but now you're getting it from the produce of the land.
Yeah.
That when you get there and you're blind with blessings and you forget the Lord, let this be a witness against you.
Yeah, wow.
And that's exactly what happened. And they continue to struggle with this, where they're delivered. Oh, thank you, God. Then they forget. And they were back into slavery. It's this cycle. So
Yeah, King Comfort.
King Comfort.
Yeah,
That's good. Let's look at some of the comments on here. Let me know what you guys think about this. We have Merrill, as always. He said, just a couple questions, so I may need to watch later. Was Ehud the first recorded assassin? Of course, JL. Wow. Lastly, was Samson prideful or just a complete dunce with getting tied up?
Nice.
Yeah, I think
Nice.
first, Ehud, I don't know, is he the first assassin? Maybe.
Good question.
Maybe. I'm trying to think about that. You guys let me know in the comments. Is Ehud the first assassin? And Samson, Merrill, I was thinking the same thing. I think pride makes us pretty dull. I think it was pride. I don't think it was him being naive. I think it was him being blind with pride. And if you read where Delilah tricks him, I think he thought that he had forgotten where his strength came from. And so when it was his hair, the source of his strength, which was to represent God being with him, he had not realized the Lord had left him. That's like a really powerful verse there. And because of that, he ended up being bound and taken away. And it was pride that led him to get in that position in the first place, flirting with sin, that led to his destruction. So it is good. I think pride does make us pretty foolish. Hello, Esteban. Hello, Emily. Ariana says, is there a link to the Bible in a year schedule for each week, so I know what to read? There is at each of your campuses a bookmark that we have. I don't have one on me currently. I will send it to you so you have the bookmark. But we do have a bookmark that shows you the reading for each week. And what's up, Jill and Adam? I'm glad you guys are here. And make sure, as on there, you got Christian. Ehud is the best assassin.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions as we go through, what we're going to do, like always, we're just going to kind of flow through some of the stories or things that stick out. And this is not this is the supplement with your reading. This is not to replace the reading. So we're only recapping and helping you along and doing a little Bible study together of what you have already read. So feel free to put in your comments, and then we're just going to talk about it. And as well, if you have any questions right now, you can comment, but as you read through the week and you're struggling and you're struggling with some questions, you can text me at 651-419-4409. But let's get into it. So we have the book of Judges, a very graphic chapter. The reason why it's graphic is because they did what was right in their own eyes. I think is interesting. Where Joshua leaves off is he left Canaanites in the land.
Yeah, he didn't finish the mission completely.
He didn't finish the mission. What's interesting about that, I found it interesting, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, is it was a command by God to Joshua to leave some of the people in the land so that the future generations would know war.
Yep.
It was to test them, right? It was constantly God is trying to test his people. But then you see it's disobedience from that next generation that doesn't handle what was in their front yard. And because they didn't handle sin, they were overcome by it. Yeah. What did you take away with that kind of theme? That really is what kicks off all the wickedness and depravity, is not finishing the conquest. What did you guys take away from that?
That's good.
You go.
No, I thought you were going to jump in.
Oh, you want me to jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll jump in.
It looked like you had a thought. Let's go on.
Well, me and Pastor Dylan, we like to riff off each other, so we're gonna it might see
That's good.
stuff. Anyway, no, I think, the partial. what we saw with the disobedience is really partial obedience. They would start to step in to do some of the things that God asked them to do. You know, they would start to go in. I think it was in chapter 3, the beginning of chapter 3.
Yeah.
Where the Lord left an order for them to test, like you were saying, to test them, and they had experienced wars in Canaan.
Yeah.
And this was to teach future generations. And the first judge, Othniel. The one thing that I noticed is that whenever they would go in and start to be obedient and then try to go and do their own thing, it's because I feel like they were forgetting who God was. They were not leaning into trusting the Lord. They were trying to lean on their own understanding and their own agendas and their own things that they wanted to do. And so then that's where we started to see this separation and this cycle start, where they would sin against God and then fall into oppression, and they would begin to lose these battles and not take the land that they needed to take and fully take and actually adapt the life and the lifestyle of the Canaanites.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is this is something that people might struggle with. God doesn't tempt people, but he does test people.
Yep.
And, well, that's unfair. No, it's not. He tests to see what's in your heart. You know, we've heard of fair weather friends, right?
Sure.
Where they're there in word, but when you need them, they're nowhere to be found.
Where'd they go?
It's God is testing his people and in different ways, but he disciplines them in order to grow them and see what's in their heart. And it says that in chapter 2. And so the Lord left those nations, not driving them out quickly, as he did not give them into the hand of Joshua. Now in chapter 3, now these are the nations that the Lord left to test Israel by them, that it is all in Israel who had not experienced all the wars in Canaan. It was only in order that the generations of the people of Israel might know war, to teach war to those who had not known it before. These are the nations, the 5 lords of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, the Hivites, those who lived in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon as far as Lebo Hamath. They were for the testing of Israel, to know whether Israel would obey the commandments of the Lord, which he had commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. I think that's interesting because it sounds weird, but the people in the land were left almost as like bumpers to keep them in line with God. Does that make sense?
That's good.
So like God left the people because war was a chance for them to learn who God was and to rely on God. Now remember, they're not getting fed by the hand of God through manna, but just because they were going to the land that was going to provide for their needs, that never meant that they were to stop trusting in God. And so war helped them see who was their provider, who went before them. It was never about their own military strength. It was never about God's inability to protect them, but it was a chance for them to look up for help rather than trusting in themselves. And so when they weren't obeying, an indicator of their disobedience was their own destruction, which would humble a prideful people and finally get them to look up, because I've done everything in my power. My military alliances don't work. My wealth doesn't work. Our military strategy doesn't work. They're crushed by their enemies, and then they look up. And what I love about this is over their, what you said at the beginning, their constant rebellion. Over and over and over and over. If you think the God of the Old Testament is a jerk, you are reading the Bible like this.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to, yeah.
Or you don't have comprehension when you read, because the mercy of God
shows over and over again.
Yeah.
Over and over. And you see this, and this is the theme throughout the book, with this like process of being overcome by their enemies in order that God would test them. It says each time when they were oppressed, it says in chapter 2, verse 18, for the Lord was moved to pity by their groaning, because of those who afflicted and oppressed them. But whenever the judge died, so God would raise up a judge for their deliverance, for their salvation. The Spirit of the Lord would rush upon them, and they would be the ones that would bring about salvation to the people by driving out their enemies. But whenever this judge died that God would use to deliver him, they turned back and they were even more corrupt than their fathers,
Classic.
going after other gods, serving them and bowing down to them. Isn't that crazy? You'd think, again, people say that it's, oh, I just haven't seen God. If I saw God, I would obey him.
Right.
That's not the track record of what we've seen the human condition.
Yeah.
It's not the case. It's not ignorance. It's arrogance that lead people to reject God.
That's good.
Let's see some of the comments. I see Adam says, so about judges, I feel like do we still have judges, the people that lead us back, just not biblically or recorded somewhere like the Joan of Arc or other people in more recent history? I would say no, because this was a theocracy, how Israel was run. Now it's not a nation where God's presence dwells, but he dwells in believers. So technically what's interesting about this, just as you see the Spirit of God rush upon the judges for deliverance, Jesus was our deliverer. He's our last final judge, the final king, the last prophet, and he gave his own blood and delivered us once and for all from sin and from our enemies, that last enemy being death and Satan. He's already overcome. The battle's won.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about this, those that believe in Jesus, we're like judges in a sense.
Right.
Where the Spirit of God rushes upon us when we believe in Jesus, and then we go and overcome and take ground over darkness.
Yes.
So we drive out the quote unquote, like the Canaanites and our spheres of influence in our city. We have power and given authority to trample over snakes and scorpions and to overcome darkness. Yeah. So in a sense, we are that. There's not like just specific people, believers. The Spirit of God rushes upon us in power to overcome.
Come on.
If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was actually sharing something similar to our worship team on Sunday. We have team time in our first service, and I was really encouraging them to like, hey, we have something that the world can offer to people who are lost and hurting. Yeah. And that's where we take that judgeship. And we step into, into the areas and the highways and the byways and bring the gospel and bring the good news to people. And we have a responsibility to do that. And I feel like as a church, we can really step up in this area and own this judgeship, mentality that will really push the gospel forward.
So good.
Like that's good. It makes me always think of just too, like we have the answers to the world's problems, like we do as believers, as the church, people who follow Jesus. We have those answers. And I don't want to bypass something that's too obvious, but even just like the word judge, I feel like if you wanted to touch base on that, like what did a judge mean at this time? It doesn't necessarily always mean like what we think it is, like sitting in court. Yeah. And there's actually like, I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
Yeah. Well, that scared me. Okay. We do have a guest. I'm going to just join her in right now. I'm going to answer that.
Table that.
Yeah. Jen, I'm going to just have you on mute for a second. She should be able to hear me right now. I'll pull you in a second after we touch this, because that is important if we haven't talked about that yet. So yeah, judge. I think when we think of judge, we think of gavel. Instead of a gavel, think of a large knife.
Yeah, right. Nice.
Or in Samson's case, the jawbone of a donkey.
Right.
Like
it kills 1,000.
Yeah, belt to hiney.
Cattle prod.
Yeah, cattle prod. Yeah, no, judge was a.
Yeah, what did it mean, Pastor Alex?
I think it would be more so deliverer is what the purpose served. Nice. Like God would raise up a deliverer for the people, that by the hand of this deliverer, they would drive out the enemies, because the purpose of the judge was they were raised up for a time and to get rid of their enemies that would oppress them. Because if they didn't obey, like God said, I'm keeping these enemies in your territory. I haven't given them into your hand to test you, to see whether you will obey my commands or not. So when they were disobedient and ultimately sold over to their enemies, they would cry. It would cause them to be humble, cry out. God would raise up a judge and be like, okay, I've given you power. Now go drive away the enemies.
Exactly.
So that's what they were doing. They were, like Jesus is our deliverer, our final judge, our savior. The hands at the hands of the judges was like a pre-Christ almost. Like you should see Christ like in these judges and in the way in which they show up on the scene. It very much should like ping, 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 ping. Like it's Jesus. That sounds a lot like Jesus, right? Where God would raise up a deliverer to set his people free. In this case, it's actual enemies.
Well, we even get that definition even more, and we can do this shortly. But in chapter 6, where they're calling Gideon, and the angel of the Lord calls him a valiant warrior.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you're a judge
warrior.
coming with you're called to be a battler and to deliver Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a military leader.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like we need you to fight. We actually need you to save us.
And that's what we do.
Physically.
It's we don't have weapons of warfare that are carnal, as Paul says, but we have weapons of warfare with divine power to dismantle or destroy strongholds, forces of darkness and high places. That's when I read this, people are like, oh, I'm put off by the war and it's unethical what God did. I'm like, no, we never put down the sword. The sword just looks different. Like believers, we're warriors. Yeah, just like Gideon. So I'm going to pull in our guest right now. Let me get you on the screen here for a second. And then we're going to address some questions from this week's reading. So, hey, Jen, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, can you tell me?
Sorry for being in the car.
No, you're okay. Just as long as the Wi-Fi is good, I'm good with it. So, have you ever done the Bible in a year before, Jen?
I tried to do like a book form on my own, but I guess without having another person or having like a group of people to be accountable for, I kind of floundered, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. So this is like maybe your first time where you're sticking true to it and you're continuing it.
Yes.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah, and having something else to explain. I mean, it's not being raised in a church, like I don't have any of the background, so like I'm hearing everything for the first time and trying to figure out what it means. So it's nice to have the podcast to listen to and the emails.
Yeah.
That kind of explain some of the stuff that's more difficult to understand.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad it's been helpful. How has it affected your life just individually as you have been reading the Bible every week, every day? What have you noticed in your own life?
I've noticed just how much closer I feel to God, and it's really been helping me with my anxiety, just staying accountable and like staying grounded in the word all the time. That's kind of the biggest thing.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get into the questions now. Thank you for sharing that. And I always like to hear that for myself. It blesses me getting to hear where you guys are at and how it's been impacting you. This is the reason why we're doing it, is to grow your guys' faith. So thank you for sharing that. And if you guys want to reach out, share your testimonies with me of how it's impacted you, I would love for you to text me. So Jen, I want to get into some of the questions and then we're all going to kind of tackle it here. Don't go easy. Yeah. What are some of the questions you had with this week's reading that you'd like to talk about?
I mean, and you guys might have already covered this. I was at my daughter's concert, so I missed the beginning part. I guess I know why is God testing the Israelites when he knows they're going to fail? It just seems kind of like a lot of suffering for when it could have been easier.
Yeah.
To have them learn the lessons they needed to learn. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dense.
No, I think it's a common question, and it goes back to really like God's sovereignty, because that same question gets brought up why did God put the tree in the middle of the Garden of Eden? Why did God put that in there in the first place? Over and over, generation to generation, God tests the heart of people. Yeah. And testing is not always for our like destruction or that we would fall. It's to see what's within us. Right. And so just like you remember when we were reading in Exodus, where before they were in the wilderness, God brought them to the wilderness to serve a purpose. It was like going to college, almost the college of the wilderness. He was testing them. He goes, I'm testing them to see if they will listen to my word. And part of the test was every morning they were to go out, collect the manna, and don't store it for the next day. That each day God was teaching them or testing them if they would trust in his character. And you'd still have people that were trying to collect manna and try to meal plan for the week. And he goes to Moses and he goes, are these people not going to listen to me?
Yeah, quit doing that.
Like,
what are you doing?
This is a simple test that
Stop
they're failing. But the testing, it was meant to reveal what was in their heart, where their heart was in their allegiance to God. So I don't know why God necessarily does this, but I do know is that we're capable of passing the test, and the test isn't too hard. Just like in Deuteronomy, it says that Moses says the word and being able to fulfill the word isn't too far off. It's not in the heavens or across the sea. It's in your mouth. It's right there. Just do it. The word is close to you. Believe it and follow him. So as far as why God does that, that's a sovereignty issue. And I don't know why, but what I do see in scripture is, one, we're capable of always passing the test, but it's our pride that leads us to turn away from God. And God tests us to grow us and shape us.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like a father who he talks about, like a good father disciplines his kids.
Yeah.
Our Father does the same way.
Right.
I feel like
sound like you wanted to add.
I feel like faith is built by testing.
Yeah.
You know, in seasons of pressing and seasons of dryness, like there's nothing else that you can lean on other than your faith in Jesus, or in the testings and the, you know, and these seasons that they walk through. And I wasn't sure exactly what the question was.
Why does God allow testing? Why didn't he? It seemed like it would have prevented a lot of suffering had he not.
Sure.
Yeah, but I know in my own personal life, there's things that I walk through. I know that God allowed me that I can look back on and know that I have greater faith because of it.
Yeah.
And I think sovereignty has a lot to do with it too. And he knows and sees all things, but at the same time, it builds something in us that we wouldn't get any other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big deal, big part of it.
Yeah. Well, even like as a church, like for Kairos, when we teach into these things, it's like what that testing means, and you should come to Kairos. Because we've been teaching on it, and we just got done with that. But also, I think of like even as Christ was tested. I mean, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's, oh man, I'm such a bad person, or I'm such a sinner. It's like, well, actually, God has so much more for you. He has a great reward on the other side of this. He actually wants to show you something in this process, and whatever it is, he wants you to walk through that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always mean terrible things. Just Jesus, it was tested, and he's like, hey, and then he went on to, perform so many other miracles, and then ultimately the greatest thing ever, which is give us eternity, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really good.
Yeah.
And that's easy to say that, but you know.
Yeah. It's interesting, and we'll get to your next question too. You just bring up a really good question that I think it's important to take a little bit longer talking about it. And I see the result of every test that the people of God walk through it's meant to grow them. Right. And it's meant to really humble them, again, like I had mentioned before, to look up to God for help.
Nice.
God brought them into the wilderness to test them. Why? He brought them to an arid place where the natural environment was unable to sustain them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Come on.
Yeah.
They had to look to God. Couldn't have God just brought them right into the promised land?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
He could have.
Absolutely.
But they would have missed intimacy with God.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known God as a provider.
Yeah.
God brings us to places of aridness, dry places. So when everything is stripped away, there's everything seems unfamiliar. We have God, and we look to him for provision. And so in the same way, now they're in the promised land.
Right.
They're in the promised land. They have everything they need. Is that solving the problem? No.
No.
They're getting more and more spiritually wicked, and they're getting further and further away from God. So the enemies in the land test them, also prevents them from going into total depravity and getting more and more wicked. Their enemies cause them to cry out to God for help. If they didn't have the enemies and everything was rain and sunshine, it would be great. And I tell people this all the time, that a lot of people think that the enemy attacks by subtraction. But in this case, it's by addition. That the enemy is totally okay with getting you a bottle of prosperity and, it's okay, don't wake up.
Nice.
You just keep calm. You don't need to worry about anything. Like, here you go. Here's the money. Here's the cars. Here's the food. Here's the new career. Here's all of that. And
Promotion.
yeah, so you end up being high on life. And when you're high on life, you don't think soberly and you don't look up to God for help. But pain has a way of waking us up to the reality and who provides and what is true salvation. So when I see testing, it's actually for their benefit that they don't end up totally drifting away from God,
Right.
totally forgetting Him, the true reward, not the land. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what's the next question? That was a really good one. Very thought provoking.
So my next one was about Naomi, and what is the significance in her like why does she need to change her name?
Yeah. Let me pull that up. Do you know where there's a meaning behind the name and I can't remember what it's called. You guys try finding that. In the meantime, do you know where that's located at the top of your head? Otherwise I can look it up. I'm just trying to.
You want to repeat the question?
I did not write down.
So you know where, that's okay. So you know where Naomi changes her name?
Mara.
Yeah, to Mara.
We were just talking about that.
Okay, so you guys got it.
Yep.
Where is that at?
It's in chapter, the end of chapter 1.
End of chapter 1.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember the meanings
Verse
of
20.
both of them.
Well, Mara means bitter.
Bitter.
The Lord has made, the Almighty has made me bitter. But you know what's funny is her name actually means delightful. Naomi is delightful. So their contrast, she kind of changed her character. But you know what I loved about this particular scripture, and what was her question? I'm gonna make sure we answer.
Why was it changed? Why did she change her name?
Oh, because okay, so yeah, her name didn't get changed. If you really think about it, this is the only time where she calls out the name Mara, and you know, and it made me think, you know, how many. I mean, I know I'm so thankful to have people in my life that will not agree with the lies that I speak over myself.
It's good. Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because Naomi was the only one that spoke the name Mara. If you look at the rest of them, it's just Naomi.
Yep.
Everyone else calls it Naomi.
That's really good.
Mara was the only time it got mentioned was right there in verse 20. And
she does that.
she does it to herself.
Right.
She said, "Call me Mara."
Yep. And so people are like, hey, no, I'm not going to let you.
No.
Yeah, no.
This is who you are. This is who you're called to be.
Delightful.
Wow.
You're chosen by God. And so, you know, I think I love that you asked that question. It's actually a really powerful moment when you can realize that you should, if you don't, have people in your life that can, you know, like
that's not true.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So like, even if we're being honest, like, I do not do good in this environment. Y'all know me. I lead worship. I sing songs. Put me behind the guitar. I'm more comfortable. But talking about the Bible and breaking these things down, it's really a challenge for me. But Pastor Dylan, when we got the call, he's like, "We're doing it." You know, I'm like, "I don't do this well." It's like, "Yes, you do. You're going to do fine." But he spoke life into me. He didn't allow me to believe the lie that I believed over myself, that I couldn't do it. But now we're here. We're sitting here doing a podcast, and it's hopefully going well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
But
interesting.
that point you brought about the name is just so good. It's such a good nugget of gold and truth that people need to yep, we're not going to let you slide into that.
And what does she
that's
say?
Not your identity.
She says right here, that is in, where, so she interprets tragedy as God's disapproval with her.
Right.
What did we just talk about? Testing. Sometimes that can be the case.
Sure.
But I think other times was Jesus tested in the wilderness for his and own iniquity? No. I think some of the things we look to and assume that we did something wrong or God's against us, God hates me, all these things are happening, and we question how God views us. And that's what happened to her. How many of us do the same thing where we interpret our situation as we go through life and we experience tragedy and, you know, don't call me, like, that's not who I am. And it says, for the Almighty has dealt with very bitterly with me. I went away full and the Lord has brought me back empty. Call me Naomi. Then the Lord has testified against me and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me. And what's interesting at the end of that in 13, when the whole story is put back together and God ultimately shows he's never left Naomi.
Never.
The whole time he was working it out for her good. It said, "Then the women said to Naomi, 'Blessed be the Lord who has not left you this day without a redeemer. May his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nurturer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him.'" That's what I thought was interesting. You have Naomi's situation, right? All this her husband died, her sons have died,
right.
like she's lost everything. But what she didn't lose is her faithful daughter, her daughter-in-law, who was like, "I will not leave you." She clung to her.
Yep.
"I'm not going anywhere."
Yep.
And what really, I think what's beautiful about this week's reading is we see Israel. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps.
Come on.
We see Israel's unfaithfulness.
Right.
And what do we see God's character as? Faithful.
Yep. Hasn't
In
changed.
spite of everything they've done, God clings to the Israelites and is ultimately their redeemer. You see that you see so many different key themes through the book of Ruth. So beautiful. You see the character of Ruth, how it really represents God and his faithfulness towards us, and the blessing she was to Naomi. That's the same way God is with us. I'm not leaving you. I'm not going anywhere. And then you see with Boaz, the one who ultimately is the next of kin that redeems them.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's also what God does to us, and what he does to the Israelites who sell themselves into slavery. Remember we read that in Leviticus, where if a fellow Israelite becomes impoverished, they're to sell themselves to a foreigner. If they sell themselves to a foreigner, the next of kin can purchase their debt and restore them back to the family.
Man.
Jesus does the same thing. When the enemies of God, when the enemies of the Israelites come against the people and they've sold themselves because of their iniquity and they're oppressed by their enemies, you see God redeeming his people, raising up a deliverer to redeem them. So I think it's so interesting that we have this week. This is already how the book is laid out, the Bible. Soon we're going to get into chronological order where everything is pieced together, but it's interesting how Judges and Ruth are right next to each other because the unfaithfulness of Israel, but the faithfulness of God is so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean that's like exactly why this podcast and why Bible in a Year is so cool, because I never picked up on any of that stuff other than that she changed her name.
Yeah.
It just none of that occurred to me.
It's so good. It's all there intentionally. That's the fun thing about the Bible, because if it's in there, if you just ask a question, like a lot of times I'll read something and I'm like, that's weird. If I think it's weird, I'll make a note and I'm like, let me look into that. Just like underline it or circle it and make a note of it. Like I've gone through the Bible multiple times, and now I'm going through and I've underlined something and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, which now I have the answer to, because I'm like, what in the world was that? So lean into curiosity. And if it's like, I never noticed that, because you find a cool little nugget like that at the other end of it. And that's when it becomes fun, because it's like, what? That's so beautiful.
Nugget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. So thank you for your questions and participating with us. This was fun.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you later, Jen.
Bye, Jen.
Bye.
Bye, Jen.
Yeah, it's fun. I love having you guys on. So feel free to reach out to me if you have some questions or you want to be on one of the following weeks. We love this, getting to hang out with you guys and having a live Bible study. So, but we're not done.
It's so cool. Yeah.
We're not done.
We're not done.
Keep going.
Let's keep going. So I think one of the interesting things, one of my favorite things about the book of Judges is you have 2 interesting appearances by a figure we have mentioned multiple times in the reading, named the angel of the Lord.
Yeah, I got that written down somewhere.
Yeah. The angel of the Lord. Have you guys, I've sent it out in the email. You've seen me teasing it out. I haven't addressed it in the emails I've written, but I've linked videos talking about who is the angel of the Lord.
Right.
So when you see that name, the angel of the Lord is the pre-incarnate Christ.
Right.
It's called a Christophany.
Right.
Nice.
So, and here's something really interesting. So the angel of the Lord is assigned to the covenant of the people of God. That God says, I'm going to send my angel before you. That's where Joshua meets the angel of the Lord in battle.
Yeah.
where he's standing before Jericho. He looks up, he sees a man, he goes, who is that? He comes up to him and he goes, are you for us or are you for our enemy? And he goes, neither. He goes, whose side are you on? He goes, I'm the commander of the Lord's army. And he falls down and worships him.
Right.
Ain't no angel is receiving worship. This is the angel of the Lord.
Sure.
You over and over again you see this, but I want to look at specifically, there's two instances. The first is Gideon.
Right.
Do you guys know the second one where he appears? At least dramatically.
In Judges?
Yeah. Yep. Hold on. I mean, it's not in Samson's.
It is.
Yeah.
Samson.
I was trying to get the right chapter, but I was like,
I was waiting for you guys also for the comments as well. Yeah.
Chat's just going like crazy.
You know, yeah, you see Gideon and Samson.
Right.
And so I actually preached on this in Richfield.
Hey, come
on. Before we were blessed with Pastor Dylan. When I was filling in, I got to hang out with the Richfield family
Nice.
when we were going through the stories in the Bible.
Right.
And this was one of the things I had talked about I want to get into because it's so interesting. And then we'll talk about the overall story. But I want to first kind of highlight
Sure.
the
Angel
of the Lord because it's so cool.
stuff. Yeah.
So interesting. So you see first, just to kind of give you guys context, Gideon is scared. He's in the wine press because, by the way, in a wine press, it's a dark cave. And when you're
meant for threshing wheat.
Yeah, it's not meant for threshing wheat.
It's not?
No.
Oh.
When you're threshing wheat, you want to be on a high place so you can throw up the grain and then the chaff gets
Separate.
taken away.
Yep.
So it separates.
Yeah.
And so he's
good point, though.
in a mildewy cave hidden away, and he's doing it not because it's strategic, but
scared.
because he's scared.
Yeah.
Yep.
And in the midst of him being a fraidy cat, hiding from his enemies, the Midianites who were currently oppressing the people of God because they were disobedient to God, God seeks to raise up a deliverer, a judge, like we had mentioned. This judge is Gideon. So the angel of the Lord personally goes to him and says, like you had mentioned, behold, what does he say, Tracy?
Mighty warrior.
Mighty warrior.
Valiant warrior in my
Come on.
translation.
Yeah, valiant warrior. Now you can imagine what Gideon is thinking, like looking behind.
Yeah. You talking
The
to me?
Lord is
you
with
talking
you,
to me?
valiant warrior.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, Gideon.
Yes, it's you. You're the guy. And
guy.
but he didn't look valiant. Anyways. So I'm trying to see where it starts off here. Gideon in verse 22, you see this 6:22. Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, and Gideon said, "Alas, O God, O Lord God, for now I have seen." Or wait, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he's saying, "Go in might, save the people." He's commissioning Gideon to go out, fight against their enemies. And then he is making excuses and saying, I'm the weakest in Manasseh. I'm the least in my father's house. And the Lord said to him, but I'll be with you. So why are you tripping? Like, and this is, I think, the attitude where Gideon is at is the attitude of all of Israel.
Yeah.
The battle never belonged to them.
Right.
He goes, I'm the least. He goes, yeah, you've always been the case. But I saved you from a great nation called Egypt. And I delivered you by my own hand. What did you have to do? Exodus 14:14 says, be still, I will fight for you. I'm the one who saves you. You were never meant to grow up and fight your own battles. I'm the one who fights for you. And this is, I think, really the heart of all of Israel that Gideon holds. And then he says, go in the might of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Do not I send you? It sounds like Yoda. Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest again. And he says, but I'll be with you. Show me a sign, he says. Again, he's like, not really sure. Show me a sign.
Yeah.
Show me a sign that I'll speak to you.
Get the fleece.
And then the angel of the Lord said to him, take a meat and the unleavened cakes, put them on this rock, pour broth over them. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord reached out the tip of his staff, and what was in his hand touched the meat and the unleavened cakes, and the fire sprang up from the rock, consumed the meat and the unleavened cakes, and the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. Then Gideon perceived he was an angel of the Lord. And now listen to this. What does Gideon say? Alas, O Lord God, for now I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face. But the Lord said to him, peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die. Because when you were to see the face of the Lord, no one can see the face of the Lord and live.
Sure.
So he realized who he was talking to.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what's interesting? When Jesus is in the flesh and before he ascends to his Father in heaven, what does he tell the fearful disciples? I'm commissioning you into all the world, but do not fear. I am with you, even to the end of the age.
That's good.
Go with the strength that you have. I will be with you. The battle looks different.
Yeah.
You're facing darkness now and spiritual enemies, but don't fear. I've overcome them. I will be with you. Same Jesus that spoke to a fearful Gideon.
Do not fear.
Is the same message that we hold on to today.
Come on.
And fight enemies of darkness and forces of evil that might make us afraid.
And it doesn't change. I feel if anybody knows me too, I just when you read chapter 6, 23, where he says afraid, and I quick looked it up, like, I wonder if it's that Hebrew word. Sure it is. Al Torah, which means when we translate it means don't be afraid, but the richness of it is like, don't even think about being afraid. Don't even let your mind go there. And how many times does the angel of the Lord appear all throughout scripture? And like you just said, they always say, like, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. But don't let your mind, it's like having a reverent fear. Like the only thing we should be afraid of is the Lord.
Yeah.
Everything else, we can do it.
So good.
So just don't even let your mind go there. And so it was like, yes, that's the word. I love that word.
No, it's so good. Then you see too, the same thing happens with Samson, and where they meet the parents of Samson, which were, let me just pull that up to make sure. I think it's in.
It was I just saw
16, I think. Or no, 13.
14 at the end.
Birth of Samson. This is where it's at. Yeah. 13:3. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman.
Mother.
And said to her, behold, you are barren and have not borne children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. And then tells him what he's commanded to do, that he'll have this Nazirite vow. And then she tells her husband, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. So he was a man, but he has this appearance. There was something different about him. Yeah. And so you can imagine that, Gideon didn't even notice. He's talking to this guy, but he's like, there's something different about you. I can't put my finger on it. And I think I know. Yeah, it's like seeing someone in public and you're like, are you who I'm thinking of? But you don't want to say it because you don't want to embarrass them. Like, I should know your name, but, and same thing with, they're like, a man of God came to me, but he had the appearance of an angel of God. It says very awesome.
Yeah. Yes.
Very awesome. And so then the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the woman ran quickly, told her husband, because she's like, he's going to think I'm tripping. I got to get him. He's not going to believe me. Behold, the man who came to, not really, but he came to me the other day. He has appeared to me. And Manoah arose, went after his wife, came to the man and said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? He said, I am. And Manoah said, now when your words come true, what is to be the child's manner of life, and what is his mission? The angel Lord said to Manoah, of all that I said to that woman, let her be careful. She may not eat of anything that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, eat any unclean thing, all that I've commanded her to observe. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, please let us detain you and prepare a young goat for you. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, if you detain me, I will not eat of your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. Check this out. This is crazy. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what was. And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, so that when your word comes true, we may honor you? And the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering, yada, 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 put it before him. And then the angel of the Lord went up in the flame of the altar. Oh my goodness. This is so deep. Manoah and his wife were watching, and they fell on their faces to the ground. The angel of God appeared no more to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. Manoah said to his wife, we shall surely die, for we have what? Seen God.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my goodness. That's so cool. That's so cool. Where the angel of the Lord is distinct from others, where the angel of the Lord, an angel serves a purpose. It's a message. It's a messenger. Right. It's not like a winged creature, but it's purpose, not identity. The angel of the Lord is God showing up and communicating with his people. So when we say, Muslims will oftentimes, you never see that before. This is like a new made-up Christian invention, but God had been communicating with his people for generations. And it was by the angel of the Lord, where God would reveal his glory and speak to his people. And you see that in Gideon and Samson, which
All the way
is so
back
cool.
even, all the way back to the beginning of the word in Genesis. And Jacob and Abraham and Isaac. He appears several times throughout the word.
That's why it says that Abraham looked, where Jesus tells the Pharisees, Abraham looked ahead to my coming and was glad. And they're like, you're not yet 50 years old. And he goes, before Abraham was, I am. That same word, I am, is the personal name of God, Yahweh. The same I am that spoke in the burning bush.
No way, dude.
It's crazy. He had always been communicating with his people. So
That's good.
so interesting. But
I think at just one point I want to go back to Gideon in a second.
Yeah,
But just
let's do it.
the two big rocks that have a theme is the calling of Gideon, Samson is I think for us today is such a practical thing that I think we ought to be doing and to be encouraged as a church and the body of believers. How do we draw out the gold of somebody and like see their destiny, see their identity, see their true calling, something that they might not even be able to see, but we see it because we're and even if you're like, oh, I don't know what that means, I don't know what that looks like, even just ask the Lord, God, give me somebody, highlight somebody in my life that be like, oh, I maybe I see something on their life. I've never done this before, but just have fun with the Lord and say, okay, so-and-so in front of your life. That's like, yep, there's somebody. And just start to ponder with the Lord. Say, what do you have for that person? And then pray on that. And then because that's how we're building the kingdom, is we're drawing them into their true calling and identity. And then watch out. See what happens in the kingdom. Because Gideon, transforms a whole, community and, delivers the people of God, And so it's like, if we don't pour into that next person, who knows what you're not going to deliver that next community from, it's just, there's real power. I feel like that, and drawing people into their identity and,
prophesying.
Let's go.
I think I like that, where it's not Jesus was calling Gideon something that he was not currently.
Yeah.
The same God who spoke the world into existence when there was nothing, he called it as if it were, and then it came to be.
Yeah, come on.
The same God spoke to Gideon and called what he wasn't and let that shape him.
Come on.
And we're called to do the same. I think a lot of times we want to criticize people of where they are, but we never give them vision of where we want to see them and speak life into them. That was honestly not he'd probably get uncomfortable if I said this if he was here, but Pastor James, I'm a result of that.
Come on.
Someone, an elder seeing potential in me and then speaking life to it where others didn't see it.
Yeah, that's true.
And not only just speaking empty words, but also, what do you call it? Not micromanaging, but like delegating and empowering. That's the word. Empowering me as a young leader when I'm like, are you sure you got the right guy? That's what Pastor has done for me. And so you make a good point where, who are we calling up? Who are we pouring into and giving a vision for their life, not because of our own ambition, but empowered by God to say, hey, mighty warrior, come follow me. And that's what discipleship is. Come follow me as I follow Christ.
Let's go.
So that's really good.
So
you
good.
bring
that
that
can
up.
kind of bring it into the testing that we were talking about earlier, and whenever you were even talking about like pacifying Christians into, their walk with the Lord, or just giving them whatever God promised them, they could easily have done it. But they would never have gotten where they were going unless they were tested. Yeah. And, sometimes, Gideon, you look at as he's going through in chapter 6, I think it is, and he literally first he gave him identity. He's like, you're a valiant warrior. I'm going to be with you. You'll have the strength you need. Just go in your strength. And then he literally vaporizes the stuff in front of him.
Nice.
And then you go down further, and then he looks for another sign.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly doubting. But the Lord was patient with him and continued to let him go and let him continue to be walk out and be who God had called him to be. And I feel like there's times where the micromanaging, like you talked about that, where a leader will say, well, hold on, let me just walk you through this, and I'm gonna, or help you do it for you. But when God just what God did, spoke identity over him, and then said, this is the things that you need to go, and go. And so that, I feel like that's a key piece in discipleship, And even growing, like I thought about raising my kids. Like right now, I'm in this age. I've got an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-week-old. And so right now we're giving Leighton a ton of responsibilities, and right now we're trying to teach her how to do things. And I'm like, you are responsible, you are capable, you can follow instructions when we tell you to do something, and you're smart. So you're going to take out the trash every Monday.
Yeah.
But Dad,
Go fight the Midianites.
Yeah, go fight the Midianites.
Yeah.
So you say, all right, these are the instructions.
Yeah.
This is who you are. This is what we do. So go and do it. And do I have to remind her that she's the one that takes out the trash? Yes. But she
Show
still
me a
does-
sign, Dad.
The trash
that I'm
is
the
full.
one. Yeah.
The diapers are overflowing.
Yeah.
There's your sign.
It's so good. And what I think is interesting too, God's patience too, to give him the signs. It didn't stop at the fleece. It even was when they're about to conquer the Midianites. He goes, go send men down there. Go listen to your enemy and what they're saying. And the enemy is talking about a dream that they had.
Right.
And basically the synopsis is Israel's going to whoop us in battle. Their God fights for them.
Yeah.
And so God purposely is like, hey, I've already gone before you. They're afraid because of me. That's what always he's saying. He goes, I'll go before your enemies and I'll make them afraid of you.
Right.
I'm the one who fights for you. But he's like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I want you to be encouraged. And so he's like, go hear the report. And so then they come back and they're like, the Lord has given us them into our hands. You see that too. What I thought was interesting, there's 3 times you see this. You see that there where spies go ahead and then they bring back a good report and it stirs up the men that their God fights for them. You see that with the 2 spies going to Jericho, where they hear Jericho, what the people are saying by Rahab, said, hey, listen, we know your God fights for you. Yeah. Like the people of the city, their hearts melt like water. And then the spies go back and they're like, the Lord has given us the city, and the people are tripping out and they're excited, they're encouraged. But then you see the failure of the spies with the previous generation, where the 12 are sent to come and encourage the people. Look what I've done. Look what I'm going to give you. And only 2 come back with a positive report, and 10 discourage the rest of the people.
Yeah, that's true.
How often do we do that, right? Where, I want to be an optimist. I want to speak life. I don't want to bring negativity. I don't want to discourage, but I want to speak life, because if God is with us, look what God has done. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not, I know with my own capability, I'm not going to be able to defeat a giant, but the Lord He's given it to us. Let's go and take it.
That makes me think about something that Pastor says frequently, about being obedient to what God had asked you to do, even if you knew you would fail.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you look at even when you go back, you're talking about Joshua, when they were sending out the 12, and they looked at this, and these 10 men that were like, we're grasshoppers in their eyes. We're
grasshopper.
Like, there's no way we can win this battle. But are you still willing to be obedient to what God had asked you to do, even though you feel like you're going to lose?
Yeah. There's last thing I want to talk about, because I already looked at the time. Time flies when you're having fun. I know they always say, "Oh, you can keep going, don't worry," but we won't go too much longer. But I think
we're gonna honor the clock.
There is something important to note about this. And again, we're not going to break down every single thing. That's not what these are meant for, but it is to help you with some of your questions, but also highlight some specific themes to help you better understand the big picture, the 30,000-foot view. And this is one of them. The book of Judges was meant, the battle was meant to lead the people to see the God that fights for them.
Yep.
That they cry out to the Lord. God hears their cries. He raises a deliverer. Their sin puts them back in bondage. It's the same cycle over and over again. And so what's interesting too is as God raises up warriors for Gideon, he doesn't do it by numbers. Why? Because he's like, I am not going to even give an ounce. I'm not even going to let there be an opportunity for an ounce of credit to go to Israel. And they say what? The people of Israel say that we delivered ourselves by our own hands.
Right. Because
the battle was supposed to be a lesson and a revelation of who their God was. And so they stripped them down to 300. And even with the 300, they didn't even fight.
Yeah.
Their enemies
Right.
killed themselves.
Exactly.
They didn't even fight.
Shofar.
They didn't even they just blew the shofar in victory, and they didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I think this depiction of what happens with Gideon and with the other judges really encapsulates the entire book, that the Lord is reminding them, I fight for you. I provide for you. I brought you into the land, but you're forgetting what got you here in the first place. And you forgetting me is going to lead to your destruction. And then you even see after this, as they win their battle, in 8:22, it says the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us. They're missing the point. Even they got the victory and they don't understand. You and your son and your grandson also, for you saved us. What did they just say?
You saved us.
You saved us
Gideon.
from the hand of Midian. Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you.
Right.
Come on.
The Lord will rule over you. The battle was meant to get you to have a revelation of who God is. How often do we put our trust in pastors and other men and want them to communicate to God on our behalf instead of looking to the Lord himself? The book of Judges is to remind the people of their history.
Yeah.
You started out as a nation from my salvation, my own hand.
Yeah.
You were never meant to depart from that.
Yeah.
And instead of being a kingdom of priests, they are looking more and more like their neighbors because they haven't driven them out of the land. They became the evil they were meant to drive out.
Wow.
They lost the plot of the story.
Yeah.
And this is the book of Judges. And you see this over and over. They did what was right in their own hearts, their own eyes. This is when they didn't have a king. And so the theme here is now you're looking for a king, like someone to rule, someone to unite the kingdoms. And this is where we are going to actually end up with a wicked king and then a righteous king, Saul and David.
Right.
A man who ruled out of his own heart and his own ambition versus a heart that was after God, that rules righteously. And so we're about to get into our next portion of the Bible in a year and get to see all that played out, one of my favorite portions of Scripture. So
Yeah.
I really do hope that this was beneficial to you guys. We do this, one, because it's super fun to talk about the Word, but we stream it for your guys' benefit and to encourage you in your own reading. And I really do pray that you guys are getting revelations and that God would just begin to speak to you. And it's fun getting to hear from Jen and Jill Myers the previous week, hearing what God's doing in your personal life. That's the reason why we're hosting this. So I'd encourage you, make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions or you just want to share a testimony of what God is doing in your life. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you guys could shout out our guest who came on. It was fun having you guys on, Pastor Dylan and Pastor Tracy. Thanks for sharing. And
We had a good time.
It was fun.
yeah, this was fun. Richfield represent. So again, I pray this blessed you guys. If you have any questions at all, reach out to me. And I pray this next week is filled with revelation and God would give you understanding, not just checking off a list. So we love you guys, and hopefully we will see you this Sunday as Pastor James will be here delivering a sermon. So love you. See you later.